Okay, massive boomer rant to start with. Gen Zers, hold on to your nose rings. When I was a kid, growing up, Indiana Jones games looked like this, and we frickin' loved them. We were grateful just to see a hat and a whip on a sprite that was compiled of no less than 4 pixels. I can't think of that many media types that have seen this much change in such a short amount of time. Top 3 indie films ranked, and there is only 3, we only acknowledge 3. It's got to go Raiders #1 at the moment, that does change. Crusade, and then put in perfume on top of the elephant's head, Temple of Doom. You might not agree with that ranking, Monoram Sudaram, but everyone to their own. And talking of Raiders of the Lost Ark, this intro is an actual recreation of that film's iconic opening scene. I haven't been this satisfied with the film IP on a console since Alien Isolation Crew Expendable DLC. What on earth are you doing here with the camera? I am checking for screen tear, checking to see if any of these graphics are misbehaving. We only have one mode, a dynamic 4K on the base level PlayStation 5 but 60 frames, and a native 4K and some better lighting on the PS5 Pro. I'm not gutted about that at all. What also surprised me is I didn't think we'd see a chest wig of this magnitude. Matted, wet. If it wasn't for that accumulated moisture, it would be classed as a fire hazard. That sort of set the tone for me. I was like, wow, this game is capable of some real gross out things. We get that awesome face reveal, nice and delayed and dramatic, just like in the film. Can we talk about the voice of Harrison Ford, please? Why do we have to talk about that now? Get it out of the way so we can move on. It isn't obviously Harrison Ford. It is Troy Baker. If you know about me and Troy, we've had our tussles in the past. He does deliver a pretty stellar performance, to be honest, as much as it pains me. But let's dive deep into the Blade Runner lore of that director's cut and remember that Ben Ford, Harrison's son, re-recorded some of that dialogue in the snake scene. Maybe he auditioned for the role, I don't know. Troy needs work, to be honest, let's be fair. He's barely in any video games. Alright, enough. Check out this awesome bit of dialogue here about running away from your problems.
Can't just run away from your problems, Indiana.
Watch me.
So you're off into your first act, and yes, you do get a very cool, plain, over-the-map, little red line scene. Now, it's important that we talk about who made this game. It's the people that made that awesome Wolfenstein 1 and the new Colossus. These guys really know their stuff. New Order was also very close quarters combat orientated. One of the first things you notice is the abundance of ordinary objects to use as weaponry. They are comedy gold. There's some amazing ones. I'll try and show you as many as I can. It does this great thing by avoiding the HUD prompt on a stealth kill, which can feel a little bit unimmersive at times. You raise your weapon when you're in range for one of those takedowns. And I've just come off the back of Metal Gear Solid Delta, the 3 remake. And the alert system on these dudes is surprisingly relaxed compared to something like that. Certain boxes can also be whacked to reveal treasure, so look out for that one. I walk past loads of them without realizing you can just hit them and they pop open. It does get a little bit like the Pulp Fiction weapon choice scene, where that goes hammer, baseball bat, I think chainsaw, and then finally the samurai sword. We settle with rolling pin. Not as glamorous, but still quite a damage-dealing piece of equipment. But then, of course, spot the ultimate iron cooking pot, which is going to be a lot louder and more satisfying. It's all going to satisfying. They have completely nailed all the animation and noises and reactions to the puzzle solving solutions. They all just feel really old and like you're genuinely discovering something that's been hidden for ages. I love all of that. They've nailed it totally. Think the Golden Claw quest in Skyrim, but all the time.
Follow me.
Partner that with some absolutely spectacular lighting, particularly in these underground sections which are frequent. You're in the Vatican, there's loads of hidden, cavernous villages almost beneath all that secrecy. And as a first location, I was like, oh god, this is going to be a bit mundane, but it's during the Mussolini era of the Second World War. So you've got that really familiar creep around, look out for troops setup that you see in a lot of the films.
Parlerò con I manovali e dirò loro di accelerare le riparazioni.
Grazie, figlione. Possa Dio camminare con te.
There is not a photo mode with this game, which baffles me. All of these shots are in-game, hence the UI in the corner. You could strip that off. Would have been great to have some shots of indie, you know, action stuff. Maybe that will come. On the action topic and PlayStation 5 in general, we have haptic whip feedback, which didn't knock me over. But I am knocked over that we have Forza Horizon 5, this and Gears 1 now on the PlayStation 5. This didn't come out of the gate multi-platform. I've just clocked 60 hours into Forza, and that Gears 1 still goes on when a mate comes over. Both reviews are linked in the description. Back to the game, and it's about now that you're aware of your tasks that are littered in a semi-open world map which you pull up on the touchpad. There are side quests, mysteries to be had here if you've got the right equipment, loads of locked safes, doors that open from the other sides. There's quite a lot to be done within this quite gorgeous looking and densely populated Vatican city.
Should find that safe. St. Paul with the sword.
Imagine being a video game artist and sitting down with these guys and they're like, okay, we need you to actually reproduce the Sistine Chapel. That's got to be up there on the list of one of the more difficult things, along with rendering a real world-sized Great Wall of China. I was very impressed. Few people will ever be able to step into this building. Hopefully one day I'll get round to it before the old peepers go kaputting. Bro, I can still spot screen tear at 19 yards. Far Cry 6, I'm looking right at you. But yeah, a bit of a jaw dropper. It does have some very good sound design as well, and it puts you in waterlogged sewers with constant noises, giving you this atmospheric buzz. I was expecting to see more rats. I think A Plague's Tale may have nailed that whole genre. They maybe just thought, leave it, we'll go for snakes later. That's not a spoiler, by the way. Upcoming roguelike snake horde mode DLC. Never say never. Also, the choice of Italy, right, at the start of this game is quite reminiscent of Venice from Last Crusade, and you couldn't really avoid footage or screenshots of this game when it came out, and it wasn't set in a dingy sewer underneath the Vatican. Things do start changing up shortly, and the game does make you feel aware of that by having a Zeppelin turn up, the idea that you've kind of got to get things done and off to another location to then further this larger mystery you're working on. I do want to mention, because he crops up pretty largely as a finale for the first chunk of the game. That's Tony Todd. This is the guy that played the Candyman. Passed away, unfortunately, in late 2024, but he made it into this, face mapped perfectly. It's such a gem to have a huge name as that play a pivotal part in your video game. He also got a pretty cool part in Final Destination 7. So bro was working hard right up to the end. We are dealing with a form of weapon degradation. In the bottom right of the corner, you'll see some white dots. These are the amount of hits that your current equipped weapon can put up with before either Indy throws it away because it's a disposable that you've found, or a permanent fixture, which is in your satchel magique. You get a cane when you're in the Vatican, but they sort of changed that up a bit. But your revolver does come as a melee weapon. Also, you flip it and can use the butt of it. Now, just saying that word revolver makes me think that I haven't actually fired my pistol yet, and we're about 3.5-4 hours in at this point in the footage, and I'm kind of itching to get out of this Vatican space, and I want things to get a bit more traditional with the Indiana Jones model. Yes, there is a reference to hitting a member of the Third Reich over the head with a giant spade or shovel.
Back away!
While we're looking at some, that close quarters combat does actually feel pretty meaty, with some cool feedback on the triggers. You've got a block and a dodge even, and the physics on the people that you're hitting looks really awesome, particularly when you knock them out. A lot more fun here than I expected. The whip is supposed to be used as well in combat. I keep forgetting because it's not prompted. And this guy goes to hit me, but I block with the truncheon, and he actually recoils because he hurt his hand. One of the more standout sections of the game is how well animated and how impactful the fist fighting and weapon swinging feels. There is a large section of the game dedicated to taking pictures of things, so that didn't feel like a kick in the teeth at all, not having a photo mode, but having a camera in the game. This is relatively fun. You also use it for hints in puzzles, and you will get a prompt or symbol appear up in the top left that you're in an area of interest. And talking of those atmospherics, even with or without a photo mode, you'll come around a corner and be presented with a scene that reminds you you're playing one of the better looking games of 2025. Let's talk briefly about the female companion that you are partnered with in the latter part of this front section. Does she look like Sydney Sweeney, Coop? No, she is a short-haired brunette in baggy trousers. Who'd have guessed that?
Looks like the lost Nurgle clay idol of Edu. They say touching it summons a Sumerian death curse. If you believe that sort of thing.
Of course not.
What was wrong with that one that you got in The Last Crusade? Dr. Elsa Schneider, the backstabbing Nazi lunatic. They can't always be 10 out of 10, Coop. And talking of scary Nazis, we get introduced to Emmerich von Voss. It looks a little bit like Hare Lip from League of Gentlemen. Americans, you're lucky you don't make that analogy, because that does take the edge off his screen presence slightly.
Ein Schandfleck auf dem Antlitz der Kirche, haben Sie das verstanden?
I was talking about that Vatican stuff not having enough Nazi bashing in it. Well, here it comes. And there is a special Fedora perk which allows you to come back from death if you can find the damn thing in and around the arena that you went down. And the enemies also reset their alert, but you'll normally appear right in front of them anyway. But it's still quite a cool little thing to do. Okay, we're off to see the wizard. That was one of the longest prologues I've ever played in a video game in my life. The Zeppelin section is pretty cool, and that is blatantly a nod to Up. Jokes. We're back at Crusader again, didn't have a ticket. Kevin Smith stole that joke for Dogma, I think, and no one pulled him up for it. How did that He-Man thing work out,
Wow. What a view.
It is something, ain't it?
So you're given a little bit more space to work with in and around these building sites. This is set in Egypt, obviously, and the Nazis are going through all of their digs, just like we have at mid-section of Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is absolutely brilliant stuff. The more room gives you opportunity to make more noise, potentially use your weaponry, and there's just so much to discover. Loads of film Easter eggs. You even get given the disguise and scuttle around and try and steal artifacts from right under the noses of all of these massive excavation projects that are dotted all over this beautiful map. And there's restricted areas, tents, secrets, loot everywhere. There's the first nod to Indy's snake phobia here.
One of my spies smuggled this out of the Nazi compound, funding approval for some sort of experiment. Signed by Adolf Hitler, the obnoxious little twit.
This is how it's done!
Der hat ihn umgelegt! Lauf lieber zu deiner Mama!
Running off and resetting everything is a thing, and when your disguise is on, you don't really have to worry about the low-level soldiers, but it puts a thing in where the captains will recognise you, so you do have to stay quite vigilant. There's also dogs, which are terrifying, and I think this is my first recorded gunshot in the entire footage.
Oh boy.
Hast du Schiss?
This weapon has food still in it. That has got to be up there with that Sistine Chapel thing. Amazing detail in all of the melee weapons. There's even a toilet brush I think I find in a second. New environments, new novelty, domestic melee weapons. Absolutely awesome stuff. Sometimes it's quite difficult to work out what your detection status is if you're in disguise and my god, it was Jeff Knightley saying that I'm up for the next Creator Content Award. Obviously not. It was the police wanting a word about that short hair baggy trousers comment earlier.
Tu, was Offizier Meyer sagt, Mann.
There you go. Yeah, sorry, the detection thing. Sometimes it is quite difficult to work out if you're being viewed upon, what exactly your status is with people in the vicinity. But then again, it is quite fun just taking stuff and running off anyway.
Du bist Eindringling! Auf ihn! Nun ist er da! Du bist so ein Wurm! Du machst das! Eindringling!
So this section of the game came in just at the right time. I was getting fatigued with that Vatican area. I wanted a change of scenery. I wanted to see more nods of the other films. And sure enough, this Egyptian location completely delivers that. Shooting and using weapons and firing guns is not as frequent as I imagined in this game. It technically doesn't even have a cover function, but they sprinkle just enough into this area to keep you interested. And the guys have massive heritage with those mechanics, so when it does all kick off, you're totally not disappointed. And as mentioned before, the close quarters is where you're going to get your most satisfaction with this game. The production on this section is also sky high. This Egyptian market scene, all of it is firing on full cylinders with the sound, the graphics, the voiceovers, the atmosphere. This feels very high level and immersive.
The best in the market!
I'm also thinking there's a bit of location revisit because the Vatican's got missions in that you blatantly need other equipment for. It's in the form of the pamphlets. And this wouldn't be much of an Indiana Jones game without that monkey in it. Stay away from the prunes, little fella.
Didn't realize I was speaking to the last pharaoh of the Ramesside dynasty. My apologies, Your Majesty.
Can't really show you much more of this video game because things start getting major spoilerish about now. I will say it does the majority of those three films quite a lot of justice. I found this pre-owned, still at quite a big cost. It is physical, however, and it was also Game Pass Day 1, but my PC couldn't handle it. My advice is if you're a massive fan of the early Indiana Jones films, which every sane cinema goer is, grab this, lock yourself away with it over Christmas. You are going to absolutely have an incredible time. And I think if you're not a hardcore Indiana Jones fan, you're still going to find some enjoyment in here. My name was Couch Coop, and I look forward to seeing you down there.
This thing's locked.
What is that inside? Oh my god, it's cold.
What was that?